The moment the alien ships descended toward Earth's atmosphere, their sleek hulls gleaming against the blue sky, the world below remained unaware of the storm brewing overhead. The human military, scattered across their many bases, had no idea that their peaceful existence was about to be shattered by the arrival of a species they'd never encountered before. On Earth's southernmost continent, in a remote military outpost tucked beneath the rugged peaks of the Andes, Captain Claire Novak watched the sky, puzzled. Her team had been tracking strange anomalies for weeks, unusual signals, electromagnetic disturbances, but the intelligence agencies dismissed it as cosmic noise, harmless and faint. Now, with the sudden flare of their sensor readings, Novak's instincts kicked in. "Looks like we're not alone," she muttered under her breath, standing by the window as the first alien ships entered Earth's atmosphere. They were beautiful, impossibly streamlined, shimmering with what appeared to be energy fields bending light around them. The ships looked peaceful, elegant, but Novak's experience told her that a well-coordinated attack could take down even the most advanced craft. She immediately relayed the information up the chain, but by the time the orders came down, the aliens were already near the planet's surface. The first contact had begun. Elsewhere, on a naval base in the Pacific, General Jason Carter sat in his command center, eyes narrowing as a message came through. A high-level alert. The Union ships, strange vessels, had entered Earth's atmosphere without warning. It was meant to be a peaceful diplomatic mission, but the moment they were detected, Carter's gut told him this wasn't going to end peacefully. "Prepare the teams," he barked at his officers, his voice cold. "No risks. Full alert." Humanity had been preparing for something like this. War wasn't something they had forgotten, no matter how many generations had passed since the last major conflict. The humans might have built a new world, but their warrior instincts had never truly faded. And now, it seemed, they would be tested. The aliens touched down in the eastern United States, their enormous ships casting shadows over the landscape. Out of them stepped beings unlike anything humans had ever imagined. Tall, thin, and humanoid, but with strange, shimmering skin and elongated limbs. Their movements were deliberate, precise, as if they were accustomed to making first impressions. As they began to speak in a language of harmonic tones, the Union diplomats hoped their peace mission would unfold without incident. But they didn't count on human adaptability. As the aliens began their ceremonial approach, a fleet of human fighters, unseen in the nearby clouds, launched from hidden bunkers. The first strike came fast, silencing the peaceful advances with a series of high-tech projectiles that tore into the alien landing zones with pinpoint precision. The Union delegation was stunned. They had come to a primitive world, expecting to find a species that would cower in awe of their superior technology. What they found instead was a well-coordinated lethal force, one that had been waiting, preparing, for something like this. General Carter, watching from his command center, clenched his fist. "It's time to remind them who we are." As the last of the alien ships sputtered and smoked, retreating from Earth's atmosphere, the Union's diplomats were left in stunned silence. The human assault had been swift, almost surgical, and it had thrown the entire peace mission into chaos. The peaceful delegates who had expected to walk into the meeting room and shake hands with an inferior species were now forced to consider an uncomfortable truth. Humanity was not the weak, primitive race they had assumed. In the aftermath of the skirmish, the Union's High Council convened an emergency session. On the holographic displays, representatives of several species from across the galaxy, tall, multifaceted Stors, glowing Luvian diplomats, and hovering Myrians, looked down upon the war room. The room was tense, the weight of this unprecedented event hanging over them like a storm cloud. How could this happen? Myrka, the Union's senior diplomat, asked. Her voice was tight, a mixture of confusion and concern. She was a member of the Gyre, a race known for their peacekeeping role across the galaxy. "We had no reason to believe this planet was capable of such organized resistance." "I told you," said Auric, The Zutor military strategist, his expression stony. We underestimated them. These humans are not like the others. His voice was low and foreboding. Though his species had never been one to show fear, it was clear that he had a newfound respect for Earth's inhabitants. The Union had always considered itself the pinnacle of intergalactic civilization. With superior technology, diplomacy, and peaceful coexistence, they had spread their ideals across the stars. The few species they encountered that hadn't already joined their federation were quickly assimilated or neutralized. But humanity was different. They weren't a race of docile, technologically backwards creatures waiting to be uplifted. They were a force, one that had been hiding in plain sight, their true potential veiled under centuries of isolation. The truth started to come into sharper focus as the Union Intelligence Division dug deeper into Earth's past. The history of the humans, once thought to be a crude, tribal species, revealed a far more complex narrative. Earth's history was a tapestry of war, nations fighting over borders, resources, and ideologies. But unlike other races that had destroyed themselves in the fires of conflict, humanity had evolved. They had turned warfare into something more than just violence. They had turned it into an art, a science. It became clear to the Union analysts that humanity had always been a warrior race. For thousands of years, Earth's people had fought against odds, had learned how to survive, adapt, and overcome in ways that no other species could. And that, they realized, was what had made them such a dangerous adversary. Humanity's true history, one that the galaxy had erased from its collective memory, began to emerge from the shadows. Long before the Union ever existed, humans had been the dominant military power of the galaxy, an empire stretching across star systems and holding dominion over many worlds. But their reign had come to a sudden and catastrophic end. No one knew exactly how or why, but what was left in their wake was a war-torn civilization, their glory lost to time. The realization hit the Union like a cold wave. Humanity had been more than just a failed empire. They had been the original warriors of the galaxy. And now, they were back. As the Union's leadership struggled to absorb the implications of their oversight, humanity's military leaders began to piece together the past. General Jason Carter, now leading the human response to the Union's surprise invasion, met with his closest advisors in a secure underground facility deep within Earth's massive command bunker. The walls of the room were lined with holographic maps of the galaxy, pinpointing various strategic locations. The situation was dire. Earth had been thrust into the galactic spotlight, but not as an innocent backwater planet. Humanity was now a player on the grand stage, and Carter understood that the galaxy's peaceful powers would never see them the same way again. "What do we know?" Carter asked, his voice calm but intense. The room quieted as a young officer, Lieutenant Clara Mayfield, stepped forward, her face etched with the same resolve as her superior. She adjusted the data pad in her hands, showing Carter a series of ancient star maps. "General, we've been running deep analysis on the historical records we recovered from the ancient human archives. It's scattered, fragmented, but there's a clear pattern." She touched a few buttons, and the holographic images shifted to show old, crumbling maps of interstellar territories. Before the fall of the last human empire, Earth controlled a vast stretch of space. Some of the systems we once held still show signs of human settlements, abandoned but well-preserved. Carter's brow furrowed as he studied the maps. The Union's peacekeepers wiped this from the record. They thought humanity was a casualty of time, a race that couldn't adapt. But we've been right here all along, waiting. Waiting for the right time, Captain Claire Novak added, her tone sharp as ever. She stood by the console, arms crossed, analyzing the data from a different angle. We may have been isolated, but we were never weak. Humans fought wars on Earth, wars that made us what we are today. We learned from every defeat, every battle. And we've built something powerful. Carter nodded slowly. Our ancestors faced threats no one in the galaxy even knows about. The galaxy's history, the one they all believe in, is a lie. The so-called Golden Age of the Union. It wasn't their time. It was ours. The words struck a chord with everyone in the room. The weight of the realization began to sink in. Humanity wasn't a race that had been rescued by the peaceful ideals of the Union. Humanity was the original warrior civilization, the ones who had fought ancient wars, mastered tactics, and built empires before the rest of the galaxy even knew how to wield a weapon. A quiet moment passed before Carter broke the silence. Then we're not going to just join their alliance. We'll offer our help, but we do it on our terms. We're not going to be a footnote in their history anymore. Humanity is going to lead this galaxy, just like we always have. Novak stepped closer, her gaze unflinching. It's time to remind them who we are. The weight of that declaration hung heavily in the room. Humanity had been forced into a corner, but now they saw their true strength, not just in their advanced technology, but in their unyielding will to survive. The galaxy had underestimated them once, but they wouldn't make the same mistake twice. Across the stars, the Union began to feel the first tremors of humanity's rising power. The Union had barely begun to comprehend the depth of humanity's legacy when the galaxy was shaken by a new threat, the Scrax, a brutal, nomadic war race that had long been a scourge of the Outer Rim. The Scrax were known for their bloodthirsty raids and unrelenting drive for domination. For years, they had been a nuisance on the fringes of galactic civilization, but now, emboldened by their success in small skirmishes, they were preparing for something far greater. The Scrax had gathered a massive fleet, and the Union's peaceful front was woefully unprepared. It was at this moment of crisis that the Union's Supreme Council, despite their reservations about humanity's growing influence, called on Earth for help. In an unexpected turn of events, the once dismissed human military was now viewed as the only hope for saving the Union from the Scrax onslaught. Desperate, they sent an urgent transmission to General Jason Carter, begging for his intervention. At a massive underground facility in the Nevada desert, General Carter, Captain Claire Novak, and a select group of human military officers watched as the Union's plea came through on their command screens. "They're serious," Novak said, her tone flat. "They've never needed us more." Carter leaned forward, his mind already working. "The Scrax think they can just sweep through peaceful colonies and claim whatever they want. But they don't understand what happens when you poke the wrong species. They're about to find out." Despite the animosity between humanity and the Union, Carter understood the political reality. The Union needed their military might, and the humans needed to prove their worth in the galaxy's larger political stage. Earth could no longer afford to stay in the shadows. Humanity's greatest strength was not only its battle prowess, but its strategic mind. The galaxy needed a new kind of leadership, and the human military would show them how. With the decision made, Earth's most elite soldiers were deployed to the conflict zones along the Union's outer colonies, where the Scrax were making their advance. The mission was clear: defend the Union's worlds, and send a message to the galaxy. Humanity wasn't just an ally. Humanity was a force to be reckoned with. When the humans arrived on the front lines, their tactics immediately stunned both the Scrax and Union forces alike. Unlike the Union, whose soldiers were trained for peacekeeping and diplomacy, humans were battle-hardened, instinctively drawing on their history of war. They didn't rely on a static defense or overly complicated technology. Instead, they used guerrilla warfare, ambushes, and psychological tactics to disorient the Scrax, forcing them into chaotic retreats. The human forces made use of every advantage: terrain, weather, deception, and their efficiency was unmatched. One by one, the Scrax warbands found themselves pushed back, each encounter more decisive than the last. The Union's forces, initially skeptical of the human way of war, quickly realized they were learning from the humans, adapting their strategies on the fly. On the battlefield, Carter and Novak were in their element. They moved like predators, not content to simply hold their ground, but to strike decisively, hitting the Scrax where they were weakest. After one particularly devastating counteroffensive, Carter stood atop a ridge overlooking the battlefield, his eyes scanning the remnants of the Scrax force scattered below. "We've just given them a taste of what we're capable of," Carter said to Novak, his voice steady but with a touch of satisfaction. "But they're going to need more than just tactics to win this. They need to understand one thing. Humanity doesn't play by the same rules as everyone else." With each victory, it became increasingly clear. Humanity wasn't simply helping the Union. They were reshaping the conflict. And in doing so, they were laying the groundwork for a new order in the galaxy, one in which humans wouldn't just follow. They would lead. As the humans pushed back the Scrax with methodical precision, the Union began to take notice, though not in the way humanity had hoped. In the halls of the Galactic Union's capital, a deep unease began to spread. The Union's leadership had initially hailed humanity as an ally, a necessary force to help ward off the Scrax. But with each victory, it became increasingly evident that humanity was not simply an ally. They were rewriting the rules of warfare in ways the Union had never anticipated. In a secure chamber on the Union's homeworld, the High Council convened once again. This time, the mood was darker. Myrika, the pacifist Gyre diplomat who had once championed peaceful engagement with humanity, stood at the head of the table, her skin shimmering with palpable tension. Around her, the council members, a mix of various galactic species, exchanged concerned glances. "General Carter's tactics are unconventional," Myrika began, her voice tight. "It's clear they are highly effective, but I fear we're losing control. Humanity's military strategies, while successful, are threatening to destabilize the balance we've worked so hard to maintain." Auric, the Zutor strategist, leaned forward. His reptilian eyes flicked to Myrika, his tone a mix of intrigue and skepticism. "If the humans can end the Scrax threat once and for all, wouldn't that be worth any risk? The galaxy's safety is at stake after all." But Myrika was unmoved. "It's not just about defeating the Scrax. It's about what comes after. If humanity continues to outpace us in military strategy, what's to stop them from demanding control? They're building something we can't ignore. The Union's entire foundation is built on peace. If humans dominate the battlefield, they might seek to impose their version of order on us." The conversation grew heated as the council members debated the implications of humanity's rising power. Some feared that if humans were allowed to lead the fight against the Scrax, they would demand a more dominant role within the Union, a role that could fundamentally shift the galaxy's political landscape. Others, like Auric, saw no reason to fight the inevitable. Humanity was an undeniable force, and the Union's survival might depend on embracing that fact. But the most vocal opposition came from the pacifist factions, who wanted to find a way to rein humanity in. Myrika led the charge, crafting a plan to limit human involvement, suggesting that the Union needed to send a clear message. Humanity would help, but not on their own terms. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Carter and Captain Novak knew that the Union's hesitation was only a matter of time. The more they fought, the more the political gears of the Union began to turn against them. But Carter had anticipated this. He knew the Union's commitment to peace and diplomacy would eventually run up against humanity's unyielding drive for security and control. "We're not just saving the Union from the Scrax anymore," Novak said one evening, pacing as she looked over battle reports. "We're proving a point. If they want us in this war, they need to acknowledge one thing. Humanity leads, or they're left behind." Carter stood, his eyes narrowing with quiet determination. "We're not going to be forced into a subordinate role again. We've already proven we can win this war. Now it's time to show them we don't need their approval." With every victory, humanity's place in the galaxy was becoming clearer. And though the Union may have thought they controlled the future, the truth was that humanity's ancient legacy had never truly been forgotten. It had simply been waiting for the right moment to rise again. The Union's leadership, divided and increasingly distrustful of humanity's growing influence, couldn't ignore the fact that they were now facing an uncomfortable reality. The galaxy was shifting, and humanity was at the heart of it. What had begun as a military intervention to repel the Scrax had transformed into something far more profound. Humanity wasn't just helping, it was reshaping the conflict, and the balance of power was tilting in their favor. In the aftermath of a decisive battle, where a human-led strike force had wiped out a Scrax flagship and secured a critical trade route, the Union's high command issued a series of orders meant to bring humanity back under control. There was talk of limiting human military autonomy, of reinforcing the Union's command over the battlefield, and of forcing the humans into a more subservient position within the coalition. The message was clear. Humanity's growing dominance was seen as a threat to the peaceful order the Union had spent centuries cultivating. General Jason Carter knew the political tide was turning against them. The Scrax were a real and present danger, but the Union's leadership had become obsessed with keeping humanity's rise in check. The time for subtlety was over. It was clear that the Union would no longer be a willing partner, and it was only a matter of time before they tried to undermine humanity's role in the war. "We've fought too hard for this," Carter said to Captain Claire Novak as they reviewed the battlefield footage from the latest offensive. The view from their command station was a chaotic, burnt-out ruin, the remnants of Scrax warships scattered across a barren landscape. "We've proven ourselves, Novak. We've shown them what humanity can do. But now they're trying to shut us out." Novak stood beside him, arms folded, her gaze. The Union High Council was in turmoil. The message from General Jason Carter had shattered any illusion that humanity was a docile, subordinate force. America stood before the council, her once hopeful gaze now hardened, as the councilors murmured among themselves. Humanity, it seemed, had chosen its path, one of assertiveness, of power, and of leadership. And that path could no longer be ignored. "We underestimated them," Auric, the Zetor strategist, said bluntly, his voice carrying the weight of his realization. "For centuries, we've maintained peace in the galaxy, but humanity has shown us that peace, in their eyes, is a fragile thing, something to be maintained through strength, not idealism." The council was divided, with some arguing for reconciliation, hoping to find common ground with humanity, while others, like America, suggested diplomacy and a show of unity to reassert the Union's control. But it was becoming clear that humanity was no longer content with the role they had been assigned. They had proven their might in the Scrax conflict, and now wanted more. Across the galaxy, Earth's influence grew by the day. The human military, fueled by centuries of war experience and the harsh lessons of survival, began to forge alliances with smaller, independent worlds that had long been overlooked by the Union. The once forgotten colonies, those caught between the power struggles of the larger galactic entities, saw in humanity a powerful ally. The Scrax threat still loomed, but humanity's rise had become a rallying point, a symbol of strength and resilience that spoke louder than any diplomatic overture. On Earth, Carter's message to the Union had been clear. Humanity was not interested in remaining a secondary power. His statement reverberated through the ranks of every human soldier, every political leader, every strategist. They were no longer just a fledgling species caught in the wake of others. They were a force that would shape the galaxy, whether the Union liked it or not. General Carter knew that the upcoming battles would define the course of humanity's future, but they wouldn't be just about fighting off the Scrax. The galaxy was watching, and humanity had to make its mark on history. If the Union wouldn't give them the respect they had earned, humanity would take it. As Carter prepared to lead his forces into the heart of the Scrax Empire, he convened a meeting with his senior officers, including Novak. The situation had escalated beyond simple military strategy. It was now a war for supremacy, a war to define who would hold the reins of power in the galaxy. "We fought with everything we've got," Carter said, his voice heavy with determination. "And we've shown them that we're not here to be anyone's second-class citizens. Now, it's time to take control of this war. We're going to hit the Scrax where it hurts, and we're going to show the Union that we don't need their permission to lead." Novak's eyes gleamed with the same fierce conviction. We've been underestimated for far too long. The time for asking is over. It's time for humanity to take its place at the head of this galaxy." As the fleet prepared to move out, Carter looked out over the vast horizon of stars. The universe was a chaotic, dangerous place, but humanity had always thrived in chaos. They had survived, rebuilt, and now they were poised to lead. The battle for the galaxy was far from over, but one thing was certain: humanity had just begun its rise to dominance. And no one, not the Scrax nor the Union, could stop them now. The stars above the battlefield shimmered with an eerie calm as General Jason Carter's fleet approached the heart of Scrax space. The human forces, once scattered and fragmented, were now a unified juggernaut, an unstoppable force forged in the crucible of conflict. The alliance of smaller independent worlds, many of which had once been subjects of the Union or prey to the Scrax, now stood beside humanity. Together, they were a new coalition, one that would no longer bend to the will of the Union or any other power. For the first time in millennia, the galaxy's balance of power was in flux, and humanity stood at the center. "We've been training for this," Novik said, her voice resolute as she stood beside Carter on the bridge of the flagship Resolute. The ship's crew moved with purpose, the hum of the engines beneath their feet vibrating through the steel frame. "The Scrax think they're ready, but they haven't faced an opponent like us before." Carter's gaze was cold and focused as he watched the tactical displays. The Scrax had underestimated humanity from the start, thinking them mere interlopers, weak and divided. But now, the human military machine was a force that could challenge even the most battle-hardened warbands. "We're not just here to win, Novak," Carter said quietly, eyes narrowing. "We're here to make a statement. The galaxy's old order is crumbling. Whether they want to admit it or not, humanity is rising to lead it." The battle against the Scrax was a brutal one. The Scrax were fierce, their warbands savage and relentless, but the human forces were methodical, calculating. Every engagement, every skirmish played to their strengths: guerrilla tactics, precision strikes, and the brutal efficiency of their war machines. And behind it all was a mind that had been shaped by millennia of human conflict. The Union, watching from a distance, struggled to grasp the scale of what was unfolding. While they had once been humanity's overseers, now it was clear that Earth's influence had spread far beyond their control. The Union's High Council, in its attempts to keep humanity in check, had failed to understand that humans no longer sought to be part of the Union's diplomatic fold. They had been the architects of empires before, and now they were claiming their birthright once again. On the eve of the final assault, as the Scrax Empire's flagship lay in ruins, Carter received a transmission from the Union. It was Mirica, her voice laden with both respect and resignation. "We never truly understood you, General," she said, her image flickering on the holoscreen. "You've proven yourselves beyond what any of us anticipated. The Union can no longer deny what you've become." Carter's eyes softened, but his resolve never wavered. "You could never understand us because you were never willing to see what we truly are. We didn't come here to be another cog in your machine. We came to lead." With the Scrax defeated and their forces in disarray, the galaxy now looked to humanity. The once weak, once isolated species was now a beacon of power. The Union, in a last-ditch attempt to preserve some semblance of their peace, offered a tentative alliance, but it was clear to all that humanity would no longer be content with being part of someone else's vision. Humanity had forged its own path, and the galaxy would follow. The first human-controlled worlds were announced, planets and colonies previously untouched by any power save the Scrax. In the wake of the war, the human-led coalition began its slow but inevitable expansion, extending an offer to every race and every planet that was ready to build something new. The galaxy was changing. The Union's era of dominance was over, and as the sun rose over Earth, General Jason Carter stood at the head of a new era. An era where humanity, once forgotten, would now shape the future of the stars. The Empire had begun.